Managing your workforce can be quite difficult and time-consuming, with complications such as absence, overtime rules, buddy punching, and compliance with legislation like the Affordable Care Act, Family and Medical Leave Act, and the Fair Labor Standards Act. Managing these employees and ensuring accurate time and attendance records can be a daunting task. We offer a complete SaaS-based time and labor management application that gives you information and automation tools you need when you need them to help control and reduce your labor costs. With our application, you can streamline your time tracking with automated collection of time and attendance information, conversion of work hours to payroll, and enforce your pay and work rules by knowing who is doing what and when. The solution goes a step further with comprehensive self-service capabilities. By enabling employees and managers to automate time-off requests, change cost centers, update timesheets, and in general communicate openly, allowing you to effectively reduce the burden on yourself or HR staff to help execute these functions while empowering staff to take charge of their time and attendance and providing managers with real-time visibility. And with all of this data, it's important that you be able to pull the reports that you need when you need them to gain a deeper insight into the workforce trends. Our solution's robust reporting has both standard and ad hoc reporting, which offers an almost unlimited number of ways to create your own reports using advanced filtering or custom columns. Reports can even be exported into just about any format that you want. And the solution is scalable, so depending on where your business is at, from the size and complexity perspective, we offer either small business or a mid-market option. The solution's versatility allows it to conform to exactly the requirements you need to have met for your specific business on a budget that you're comfortable with. With that said, let's jump in and take a look at the time and labor management application. We will begin by looking at some of the functionality that employees typically have access to. Then we will move on to taking a look at the system from the manager's perspective, and we will wrap up with taking a look at the system from the administrator's point of view. Now, there are a variety of ways that punches can be collected and recorded onto an employee's timesheet. For example, we have several hardware devices, which include simple swipe, biometric, and handheld devices such as the mobile app. And then, of course, there is a traditional entry using the web as well. And we do have 10 different timesheet formats available, so let's begin by taking a look at a couple of the more popular timesheet formats. First, I'm going to log in as Ashley to show you the timestamp timesheet. This is the strictest of all of the timesheet formats that we have available. It uses a server time, which can be found here in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, and the server time will adjust for the different time zones. Employees can clock in and out using these buttons here on the top of the screen, and by clicking on the Change Task button, she will have a predetermined list to choose from. We can see that the system has automatically clocked the user out of one task and into the next one. Now you can label this button to fit your needs, so if you wanted to track department or cost center, you could do that as well. Keep in mind that the configuration of each format is flexible, so you can determine how many days or weeks to display on the timesheet. You can determine if work time can span midnight, or even how long to assume a missing punch. So in our case, we're looking at 1 day at a time, and you can review the timesheet total hours here at the bottom of the timesheet. You can also make available a yellow sticky note where employees can enter notes to their manager about their timesheet. And once a note has been entered, an email notification can be generated to go out to their manager, who can review the note and take any necessary action. Now let's say that Ashley would like to print her timesheet. She can access this functionality under the Utilities button on the bottom navigation bar. From here, she can also view her schedule or review her time-off balances. Next, I will log in as Casey Jones to show you an example of the Start-Stop timesheet format. This format is using the honor system concept. It allows the employees to track their start and stop times by day, department, project, or any other units of measure. This timesheet format does not rely on the server time, but instead the employee can freely enter in their time. So let's take a look at an example. We'll clock her out of the first project and into the second one. The system also allows an employee to allocate dollar amounts to specific categories and can include this information within the system. So as an example, let's say that Casey goes to an offsite meeting with a client and needs to stop along the way for gas. Casey can allocate her expenses here under the Extra Pay tab. So from here we can see that she would be able to assign her expenses to a specific department or client, and then she can choose from the appropriate pay category, and this list is completely configurable. Then she would be able to enter in the dollar amount for this expense. And then in addition to simply tracking those expenses, Casey can upload a copy of her gas receipt to keep the whole process paperless. And lastly, this entry can also be set up so that it must be approved by a manager during the timesheet approval process. Now that we have reviewed a few different timesheet formats, let's take a look at how an employee would go about requesting time off. Employees can request time off through our system using our automated time off tool. Casey can access her time off request tool from the menu options up above. All of the employee self-service functions are made available here under the My Account tab. The Request Time Off screen contains three parts: the Request tool, the time off balances, and a list of all of the recent requests. Let's select a day of vacation for our example. We can then choose the date by selecting from one of the following: a full day, where the employee would just select the calendar date; partial day start-stop, which is where the employee would select the calendar date, but then need to enter in a from time and a to time; partial day bulk, which is where the employee would select the calendar date, but then specify the total number of hours that they will be out for that day; or the employee may request off in multiple day increments. So for our purposes, let's choose a full day. Then the system may be configured to require that a comment be added. So let's say that we're going to be making it a long weekend. Now once this request has been submitted, an email notification can be generated to go out to the manager, prompting them to log into the system and review the request. Under the Balances window, the color coding feature alerts approvers whether the employee has authorized time available. If enough time is authorized, a pending request would be reflected in green. If not, the requested time off would appear in red. You can also prevent a request from going through if it were to bring an employee into the negative balance. I also want to mention that the system can easily be configured to enable blackout dates and prevent an employee from even being able to request time off during those predetermined blackout dates. Now let's move on to looking at the system from more of a manager's perspective. To do this, we're going to log in as Jack, the manager of our company. You'll notice that Jack has a dashboard screen enabled. Keep in mind, each dashboard can be configured to meet each individual user's needs. So in this case, Jack's dashboard is geared more towards his managerial duties and puts all of the information that he needs to know about his employees right here at his fingertips. As you can see, he has a window enabled which will display all of the time off requests that are still pending approval. He also has a list of quick links that will take him to the items that he accesses most frequently. He can also view a dot board to see who's in the office and out of the office at any given point throughout the day. The blue pin represents that the employee is clocked out, and the red pin indicates that the employee is clocked in. This information is available in real time if the employees are clocking in using the web or an Ethernet device. He also has the ability to keep track of exceptions, such as who's tardy or absent, and this report is color-coded for easy identification. And if anybody does have a missing punch, that can also be displayed on the dashboard, where a manager can drill down into that employee's timesheet to make a correction. Now let's close out a few of the open items that we started on the employee side, such as approving the time off. So as you can see, the time off request that we submitted for Casey is being displayed right here on the dashboard. As the manager, Jack needs to understand a few things in order to make a more informed decision as to whether or not Casey should get her time off approved. So with that said, first, Jack can click on what looks like the hourglass icon. And from here, he can see if Casey has a positive balance. Now remember, we have the color coding feature, so this is an easy way for the manager to identify if the employee has a positive balance. So now that Jack knows that Casey does have enough time authorized for this request, he will need to find out if there are any other employees out on the same day that Casey is requesting off. So for this, he can turn to the Date Requested column. So from here, he'll be able to see if there are any other employees authorized off on the same day that Casey is requesting. So in this case, there are 2 employees already authorized off on that day, indicated with the 2 in parentheses. The date is a hyperlink which will allow Jack to drill down and see who those other employees are. So now Jack can make a more informed decision as to whether he should let Casey have the day off. I will approve the request by clicking on the green flag, and then the system will prompt me for a comment. So we'll simply put in, "Have fun." And now the status of this request will be sent back to the employee through an email notification. So we have closed the requesting time off cycle. Now let's move on to taking a look at how the manager would review and approve the timesheets. So first we want to check to see if there are any missing punches before we approve the timesheets. So an easy way of identifying a missing punch is to include this information on the dashboard. So as we can see, Ashley has a missing punch, and we can drill down into her timesheet from here. We'll notice that Ashley did not clock out at the end of the day. However, she did leave us a note, which is indicated here with a green check mark over the note icon. In this case, it seems that the employee left at 3 p.m., so we'll enter that information on her timesheet. Keep in mind that the system is capturing all of the details around this in an audit trail. So it will include the old value, the new value, who made the change, when the change was made, and even the IP address that it was made from. That way, if there's any sort of discrepancy, you can always look back to that audit trail. So back on the previous screen, we can see that there are no longer any missing punches, so we can move forward with approving the timesheets. So to do this, we can access our timesheets listed here under the quick links under the Manage Timesheets Pending Approval. So this is the screen that Jack will use to review items such as the raw time, the regular hours, as well as the overtime hours. And this will bring up all of the timesheets that Jack needs to approve. So the manager has the ability to approve them all at once or individually, and we can approve them all at once by using the green flag here on the bottom of this screen. So once this is approved, the timesheet will be passed on to the next approver, and there are up to 5 levels of workflow available for the timesheet approval process. Now you have probably come across a situation where a manager is out sick or on vacation or even out on maternity leave. And when this happens, how do you handle who's going to be taking over the approval responsibilities? Well, in our system, we can easily assign a backup manager for the time frame that you define using effective dating so that the workflow is not interrupted. So to do this, I need to log in as Kathy, the company administrator, and I need to edit the group permissions.